Hello and welcome to Azure Wala YouTube channel. We are in part 64 of Microsoft Certified Associate series. So far we have completed 107 questions in previous videos. Today we are going to look into question number 108 and 109. You have an Azure subscription that contains the file shares shown in following table. The name of file share is share1. It is in West US location, share 2 in West US location, and share 3 is in East US location. Now the next part is written here. You have an on-premises file shares shown in following table. So we have data 1, which is on the server 1, and this is the path of data 1. Data 2, which is on the server 2, and this is the path of data 2, and data 3 is on server 3, and the path of data 3 is as follows. You create an Azure file sync group named sync1 and perform following actions. So first of all, we add the share1, the file share, is cloud endpoint for sync1. We add data1, which is on the server 1, is server endpoint for the sync1, and we register server 1 and server 2 to the sync1. So server 3 is not registered. Let's visualize this question on the diagram. So as per the question, we do have Azure file sync. So this picture represents that, and that file sync is having Azure file sync group, which is the sync1, and that sync1 is having a cloud endpoint, which is the share1. And please note, each sync group can have only one cloud endpoint. The second is server 1 is registered server, and it can have server endpoint, which is the data 1. Server 2 is again registered with sync1 group, and it also can have data 2, and these are the location on the servers. And for the server 3, which is not registered on sync1 and cannot have server endpoint data 3. I hope it is clear, and on this diagram this proves that Azure file sync group can have multiple server endpoints, and it can have only one cloud endpoint. Let's go back to question. Now we will go to answer area, and first statement is you can add share 3 as additional cloud endpoint for sync1. So as we know from the Microsoft documentation that one sync group can have only one cloud endpoint, and we already have one cloud endpoint as share1. Therefore share1 is the existing cloud point for sync1, and another sync point cannot be added. Therefore answer for this statement would be no. Statement 2, you can add data 2 as additional server endpoint for sync1. Answer for this would be yes. Why? Because we can have multiple server endpoint for one sync group, and we do have one server endpoint, which is the data 1 on this one, but for the server 2 we do not have any pre-existing server endpoint. Therefore, we can add data2 is server endpoint for server 2. Statement 3. You can add data3 as additional server endpoint for sync 1. Yes, we can add data3 as additional server endpoint for server 3, but there is one thing which we are missing, that server 3 is not registered. Server 1 and server 2 are registered to the sync 1, but server 3 is not registered with sync 1. Therefore, we cannot add data3 as additional server endpoint for sync 1. So answer would be no for this. Question 109. You have a sync group named sync1 that has a cloud endpoint. The cloud endpoint includes a file name file1.txt. Your on-premises network contains servers that runs Windows Server 2016. The servers are configured as shown in following table. So server 1 has share 1 and it is having file 1 and file 2 shared content. Server 2 has share 2 and it is having file 2 and file 3 as shared content. You add share 1 as an endpoint for sync 1. 1 hour later, you add share 2 as endpoint for sync 1. For each of the following statement, we have to check. So as per this question, diagram would look like something that we have sync group 1 or sync 1 and it is having cloud endpoint and it is having a server endpoint which is share 1 and another server endpoint which is share 2, and we include the file 1 file and file 2 which is the second file through the server endpoint 1 and file 2 and file 3 from the server endpoint 2, and file 1 is already written on the cloud endpoint. Now let's go to answer area. First statement is, on the cloud endpoint, file1.txt is overwritten by file1.txt from the share 1, since it was already added on the cloud endpoint earlier and then later on it was added through the share 1. So the statement is asking if it is going to overwrite. So keep in mind, Azure File Sync uses a simple conflict resolution strategy. It never overwrites any file added through any endpoint. Therefore, this statement would be always wrong whenever we do have any overwritten type of statement. It is being handled through the conflict resolution strategy of the file sync, and it will never overwrite any files added through any endpoint. Therefore, this statement is wrong. Statement 2, on server 1, file1.txt is overwritten by file1.txt from the cloud endpoint. Definitely, again, the conflict resolution strategy works and it never overwrites any of the file on either on the cloud endpoint or the server endpoint, and it does keep file name with the endpoint, and it keep both the version of file. Statement 3, file1.txt from share 1 replicates to share 2 Yes, definitely it is going to replicate the file 1.txt from share 1 to share 2 as well. I hope this video was informative for you. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, press the bell notification icon. Thank you for watching this video. See you in next video.